Okay. You guys good? How do you? Fine. Awesome. Okay, let's get started, everyone. We are officially live across 3 cities. How exciting! Hey, Louis, microphone? Yeah. Can we leave some music playing in the background? Yeah. I can hear my voice. I don't like it. Okay. Hello, Brisbane and Wellington. I'm Mel. This is Melbourne Processing Community Day. Mel from Melbourne. We have 3 speakers to do some talks. We've got Andrew Runtime, David Johnson, and Matt Tierney. Cool. So we'll have those 3, and then we'll pass it over to Brisbane, and then Brisbane will pass it over to Wellington. So let's get going. Microphone.
Can you all hear me?
Hello.
Yes, you do, because they won't be able to hear you.
Hello. That's too close. Yeah. Woo! All right. Cool. So my name's Andrew. I'm a software engineer here in Melbourne. Throughout my career, most of it's been on the web and in like typical software engineering type circles. Right now I work for Qantas. Kind of work for a startup that is owned by Qantas, but same thing. Sounds better to say Qantas. So I have a couple slides. This is like I'm reusing an old presentation I did years ago. And there's a couple slides of things I worked on, game dev wise. I'm gonna press that one. So this is a game called Swerve in Melbourne I made a few years ago. It's not in processing, it's written in Python, but it's kind of like an Outrun clone. And it was good fun. Actually, Mel did the artwork for this, so all the good stuff you're seeing is really her work.
That's not true.
This is a more recent one. It's called, I really can't see that, but this one you will be able to see. It's called Necro Blaster. I had it here actually over the weekend. It's like a rhythm game, it's a drumming simulator, but it's for death metal specifically. So it's good fun. Actually, one of the guys that was playing it, he played it so much that his knuckles actually split open and he was bleeding. And he was like, "Well, what have you done to me?" And I kind of felt proud that I hurt him. It was like made it even more metal, so it's good. That's the controller. That's the video of me playing it. Yeah, so Dim Jump is a game. This is written in, well, it's written in Clojure, which is another programming language, but it has a library in it called Quill that is effectively an implementation of processing and the whole standard library of processing. So it's what I call a frustration game. There's only a couple of things you can do. You can go slower, faster, you can jump and you can duck. The levels are not, they're designed, they're not like random or anything like that, but they get progressively harder, and over time you have to start, you have to be lucky because some of the levels are literally impossible unless you just keep playing them until you eventually beat them. But also you have to start learning how to duck and jump and go faster, and it becomes very, very complicated. But it's right there if you want to play it. Oops, sorry, I keep going the wrong way. And finally, this is a game I wrote called Moon Dweller, and it's a text-based adventure. I wrote this 1 years ago. But yeah, it got weird. It was funny in this game. It was the first game I made. I think it was one of the first games I made. And I made it before actually planning what it was going to be about. And so in text-based adventures, that's super important. You have a really good story because that's effectively all it is. But I just had a cool name. And I just sort of went with it, and it got weirder and weirder and weirder. And I never thought anyone would play it, and then people started playing it, and they were just like, what the hell's going on there? Yeah, and that's it. So I think, for me, I'm a software engineer. I'm not a creative, I'm not an artist or anything like that. All of my friends, all of my colleagues, if they're very experienced, good programmers, but if you said to them, hey, I'm going to a processing event on the weekend, they all kind of look at you and go, processing? What? As in, like, what are you processing? I don't understand. And so I think it's really important that more software engineers get involved in game development and, literally making art with computers, because it's not something that the average programmer does, although they totally could, and there's totally a future in it. So well done to everyone here for actually caring about that side of computer programming. And that's all. Thank you.
David, Matt, who wants to go first?
You guys want this computer? You can try computer.
Steal your laptop.
Everyone wants to use me.
Just realised when Brisbane and Wellington log on. Yeah, we'll show you one. What's this?
Hey all, I'm Matt. I've got a couple of slides here. So my project's like an audiovisual performance project. It's traditionally what I've done in the past in my career. This is an image from the International Space Station. We kind of took this as inspiration for my project, and when you research space stations, you're pretty much researching satellites. So looking into that stuff, I come across this image. This is called the A-Train, which is a string of weather and data satellites in outer space. So I pretty much set out to create something like that. Just show you a couple of demos here. Pretty much the first thing that I needed to do was create this axis of objects. This is like a little play test. And that's like a full circle of them. It's kind of like sitting things in orbit around like a spherical body, I guess. I'm pretty much a hack coder. Like, I don't really have, I've got more of an arts background. I just kind of got into programming because it interests me, but the project itself is very bare bones, kind of basic processing graphics. I don't really have kind of any kind of texturing or anything going on, so it's pretty minimal. This is getting into a bit more 3D sort of territory. Rotation. I'll just dive into the main project, but I might have to change something quickly here. I think that this projector puts out different res to.
No.
See, I'm basically using a few different programs here. Processing does the visuals. This is another tool called Bezier. This does like basically timelining of various different data sets, whether it's MIDI or OSC, or you can put audio tracks and stuff in here too. And then I've got this controller here, which I use to control the sketch in a show. And I've just got a little max patch, which converts MIDI data into OSC addresses. And actually this was done for me by a guy when I was on a residency once, so I didn't even make this, but yeah, this guy named Kenny at the Banff Centre totally recommend going there if you ever want to do a creative project on a residency. BAMSTEM is amazing, you get heaps of help. So I'll just fire this off. Hopefully it works. So basically got all these different scenes. Probably the key takeaway for me and this project is sort of moving away from the sketch paradigm, like, and being able to integrate multiple sketches into one big major project is always a bit of a hurdle for me. So, you know, I've basically got alpha channels just assigned to these knobs, and I can bring in different sort of planetary scenes, if you like. This is my planet, you've got stars in the background. And so I can bring these in, and then I can even change camera angles and stuff like this. And I have some, here comes these, so that's some of the satellites. These are kind of like my art satellites. And I can stop them, just kind of focus in for a little bit, send them on their way. I've got another little set here, like a secondary line when it comes around. Here they come. I can stop there, and I've got some, I can kind of twist the world around and stuff. There's a few other sort of elements I created, like this is sort of a vortex kind of moment that kind of came out of it, and we'll kind of head into that. We get some rotation going on there. So this is kind of the visual look, or where it kind of ended up, and there are other kind of just, yeah, kind of like different graphics and stuff that I can bring in, but we're starting to kind of like add in extra scenes and stuff. Hopefully I'm not going over time here. But yeah, that's it pretty much. I'm doing a show in 2 weeks, Boss Bazaar in the city. It's on the 16th if you want to come check this out live. Have some sound, and there's a bunch of other great artists playing too. So, cheers.
Thanks, Matt.
Hi, I'm Dave Johnson. I'm lead front-end developer at IE. So founder of the Edison Union, which is a creative technology collective. Project I'm going to talk about is called eMesh GUI. So this was originally created by a guy named Melbourne in 2011. You may have seen some of his work on creativeapplications.net. He kind of abandoned it. It was picked up by Studio Troll in 2014. They added some new features, and I kind of picked it up last year. I'd done a bit of work with the eMesh library on another project, and found kind of playing with it a bit frustrating, because you have to kind of keep watching sketches and testing out different things. So I kind of tried to pick this up and update it. So some of its features, basic primitives, box view, all that sort of stuff. Modifiers, which can change the look of the shape. Subdividers, which kind of increase the number of polygons in a shape. And all your other kind of camera lights, all that stuff that processing already has. So this is what it used to look like. Had a few basic kind of controls that you could use to rotate and modify shapes. These are kind of some of the renderings that I was able to do. So should be keep playing. So initially I just planned to update it so it would run with the latest version of processing, but being a developer, I kind of started rebuilding the entire thing from scratch. So I added a whole bunch of new shapes, subdividers, simplifiers, made it multi-threaded so I can render things and not block the UI. introduce themes, because why not? And I updated so you can import and export various 3D shapes, and a few other kind of improvements. So let's jump into this. Hopefully this looks alright on the projector. Might be a bit squashed. That's okay. So here we can kind of pick any different shapes. Pick a realistic. Got the camera controls here. Kind of rotate it. And then let's start applying modifiers. So you might want to knock out those faces and make it a lattice. Change the depth. So initially, all of these kind of parameters were hard coded. I kind of updated it so you could take. You could use as many kind of parameters as necessary. What else? Indenteds. Slices. That's color. It's also got a really cool sunflow renderer, so you can render out really nice versions of this. I'll show you back in those slides. There's a whole bunch of examples that I've included, so if you go to the GitHub, you can install this, and it might be useful for the code jam today if you wanted to use it. Just open one of these. This is one of the different themes. Little rabbit there. Also a Terminator skull. That actually takes a while to learn. So yeah, you can apply all the modifiers and stuff to this. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
All right. I'm going to mute myself now, and I will chuck it over to Brisbane. David, are you next?
Yeah, hi Mel. Hi everyone there in Melbourne. This is us here in Brisbane. It's great to see all of you. I'm going to be moving the screen around to the different camera angles.
Awesome. I'm going to reset up our stuff. Whenever you're ready.
Okay. We obviously there's such different types of creative coding here at Queensland College of Art where we're based. I think we're going to be showing things that are a lot more from a fine art kind of perspective, so a little bit different to what we've seen before. But to start off, we have Seth Ellis, who is a lecturer here. Oh, it says I'm muted. Can you hear me there? Can anyone hear me?
Oh, no.
Okay, can anyone hear me now? Unmute now. Says I'm not muted. What's going on?
No. You're good. All good.
Okay, we're good. Okay.
Sorry, it was me.
Yeah, right. Worried there for a minute. All right. So Seth is a lecturer in the interactive media program here at QCA and has something to show you. So
indeed, I do. Okay, so this is basically a video resampling tool that I made to use in other projects. Basically, it just takes a existing video, in this case, sort of a stream I did of a walk around what was then my neighborhood, and it resamples each frame pixel by pixel and then shifts from frame to frame a pixel at a time rather than a frame at a time. And it does this on a sort of rolling average so that after a point, you can't really see that, but after a point, there's maybe 300 frames being sampled at the same time. So eventually, it looks like this. And this is from the same video. Just a sort of big impressionistic pixel by pixel plot of my neighborhood as it then was. And I'm skimming through it now so you can see that the details float away and it's just sort of a general impression of a Brisbane suburb. I've used this in a couple of different ways. One was, sort of AR facing project where like you put on the goggles with the phone, and basically this is what you saw through it. So you were sort of alienated from the same place you were walking through, and this was GPS coded. So you took the same walk that I took, but this way. And this is what that might look like. So you can see a tiny sliver of really existing reality. So you don't like run into anybody or fall into the creek. But the rest of it around you is this sort of pixel mess of the entire walk averaged with itself. Another version in a gallery setting was I took an archival text from a town where I was doing a local site-specific installation and sampled each page of the text so that it turns into this sort of mix of just unintelligible text. So this is a project that isn't a project in itself, but a tool that I use in order to make other projects. And I've gone back to this tool every once in a while over the past couple of years and reuse it for various things. I think that's it.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Seth. Thank you all. Now we're coming over to this part of the room to see Amari Lowe, who is a student in the Masters of Interactive Media program here at TCA.
Yeah, so I didn't know I would be doing this till like 5-10 minutes ago, so excuse me for the roughness of my presentation. Well, before, okay, not this, but well, I was fiddling with some stuff last night. Okay, so the main thing I was gonna show you guys was a little thing that generates maps on a tile grid that I made for a class here, actually. So yeah, so I really like games with like procedural generation, so I thought I'd just mess with that. And like for background, I'm actually maybe 90% self-taught. I just read stuff and yeah, I'm more of an arts person, so I mean I may not know like terminology and stuff. I just try to make stuff I like. So yeah, what it does is kind of seed and grow islands on a map, and then it's like also an interactive game where like you can click on a tile to start a city, and it will have like a name and like a population. And depending on like the kind of terrain you have, it might grow like at different rates. And like if you put it far from a water source, it kind of dies very quickly. So yeah, that's just one area that I'm interested in visual code stuff. And yeah, so if you give it long enough, it will start to kind of spread and grow along the coast. And the tiles will kind of like at each growth, it kind of calculates, it finds the best tile to grow to, that sort of thing. So, I don't know about practical applications. I don't think it's like terribly accurate to like how real cities operate, but it's fun. Yeah, it's just a fun coding project I did over a week. Another one that I did was this one. It's just kind of live webcam filters. Basically, I did this one very quickly, so you can kind of adjust the range of black it has to get like different effects. So like, I thought it's a bit of like a fun gizmo that you can play with, and like then you can like post stuff online. So yeah, that's messing around with build like camera input and stuff. And oh, this one was I had a lot of fun with this. It's like you are okay. Let me just refresh it. Yeah, so the idea is that it generates a tournament bracket that you can. I mean, maybe it's a very specific interest of mine. Sometimes I like to decide like. Figure out like what my favorite thing of a set is, and then like I want to like pit them against each other. So like this kind of just generates a chart that will show you thing. So like you can just pick, okay, I want theta, I like theta more than zeta, so you go pick those, and then yeah, so it goes through successive rounds, and then at the end, it will output like a chart that shows you the paths that each one took. So yeah, I guess what else do I have to say? As someone who really learned everything reading online, I didn't really take any classes until like last semester was my first semester at QCA. So I would love to like maybe create more opportunities for complete layman people with no coding background to kind of learn to make this sort of stuff, because it's once you get past that initial hurdle, I think it's like you can do so much with relatively little knowledge. So yeah, that's what I hope for the future of processing. Yeah.
Thank you, Amari. Okay, now we're heading across to the other side of the room for Tony Baker, who is a PhD student here at QCA, and we'll see what he has to say.
Yeah, I made this. I mainly work with like actual space and objects, but I had this sketch in a really confined space with a whole bunch of other interactive work. So it's sort of based around sound. Will that sound come straight on?
Probably come out of your computer.
And it's pretty basic. So it's just an array, and it's sort of got an equation that's, the equations are sort of reading the same integers and values. So you'll see it glitching out. And every time you click a button, it brings up a new sound file.
You have to turn up your computer.
It's like a game that's fairly aimless. But inside it's a bunch of poetry and sound that sort of talks to other things in the physical space. That's about it.
Okay, well, cool. Thank you very much, Tony. And, I think we have plenty more we could show you, but in the interest of time, we'll leave it there for the moment. Great to see you all in Melbourne and Wellington as part of Processing Community Day, and we're really looking forward to seeing what you'll put together as part of the Processing Soul Challenge and what comes out in the zine later today. So let's take it over, hand it over to you, Birgit, in Wellington. Thanks very much.
Hey. All right, quick swap over. Sorry.
Sweet.
Oh, I unplugged the wrong thing. Oopsie. It's all good. Oh no. Camera on. Here we are. Can you hear us? And now we can.
Hello.
Make that.
I'm going to show stuff on screen so if the camera can see that, that's awesome.
It's a mirrored, so you have to imagine it the other way around. I'll just check if they can hear us. I guess they can.
Hello, can you hear me? Maybe.
Someone raised their hand if they can hear us. Ah, sweet. Okay, all good.
Cool. Hello, everyone in Australia and everyone else. My name is Tim, and here at Massey University, I teach a first-year course, and part of that is processing. So I just wanted to pull out some of the student examples that we've had from previous years, and just see the cool and wacky stuff that they've created. So like, yeah, our classroom is not so much like a typical coding classroom. It's more like a design studio. It looks like that. So the first one that we have, I suppose the credits are down the bottom, which would be impossible for you to read online. But for everyone here, you can go to their blog to check out their work. Like first off, we had Karina. She had dynamically generated can nutrition labels. So like the more sugar is in the drink, the brighter they would become. The idea is that you could just look at the label and kind of know if it's healthy for you or not. This one was like an abstract book. So it would take text input and it would spit out this stylized book back to you. I think this one's Little Red Riding Hood. Yeah, I can see like the two O's are the same color, so that sort of thing. We had a book of sneezes. So she went around the class and recorded everyone's sneeze, and the sneeze would turn into this sort of shape. So, you know, everyone's got their own sneeze, like everyone has their own fingerprint. This one was looking at deforestation. So it was essentially like 1 page per year, and she was pulling data about, you know, the amount of forest cover that we have. And you can pretty clearly see a trend. I guess you know what that trend is. This one was looking at endangered species and actually extinct species. So this shape in the middle here, like each disc represents a year, I think it was, or perhaps a decade. And the shape here, so like this one's vertebrates. So the more vertebrates that get extinct, the closer this edge gets to the edge of the circle. The idea being like, if this is our ecology, the more of it that gets eroded, the weaker our ecology becomes. There's a message there. We had some kind of dynamically generated posters. So this one would just kind of pull in whatever text you would give it and would spit out this kind of customized design for you. We had some little lamp sort of stuff. So sometimes it's just about what material you print onto. So this one printed onto some like OHP paper and then turned into this little box. And then my old like iPhone 4S from back in the day, you can turn it into like a lampshade sort of thing. Custom made jewelry and earrings and that sort of thing. So this student, Kanomi, was pulling in data about slave labor in the jewelry industry and then representing that data to turn it into these shapes and then wearing it as jewelry. Molly was looking at the Christchurch earthquakes, and so this was like a data visualization project. So I think the 3 days that those earthquakes happened, but each circle represents like one earthquake or aftershock. So it gives you like a really clear image that it wasn't just about like these one quakes, but it's all the other stuff that goes on around it as well. We have kind of 3D printed stuff as well. I can't remember what this one was visualizing, but looks really cool. And you can kind of see the process, the process of going from like, you know, cardboard and moving into another material, I think is something that's important for all of us. Dynamically generated kind of album covers or, you know, record art. So taking the actual, you know, song amplitude and tone and stuff like that, and turning it into this visualization so that, you know, each one is customized. We had the old school, what is it, the red-green 3D glasses, and now good. So this one was like, you can put in any kind of vector shapes and processing would offset them for you, basically, so that you could print out where the glasses see it 3D. Cool, yeah, another lampshade sort of stuff. Yeah, I like the light stuff, looks cool. Performance art sort of thing. So this one was like taking a camera feed and kind of abstracting it in a way. And then this person was like, basically their presentation was to live act a music video for us. It was really sweet. Too bad no video. Yeah, just like generating some shapes and putting them in interesting places as well. So putting them onto skateboards. Wouldn't it be so cool to like be able to just custom design your own skateboard and have one that no one else has? Yeah, just beautiful stuff from Thomas Field. Yeah, I love it. This was on like OHP paper and then like projected back out into the world. Holograms? And yeah, I suppose technically all it is rendering a 3D model from like 4 different ways and then putting this perspex thing around it, but it just looks really good, right? And he photographed it nicely. You need to pick it up. Good stuff, Trent. Kind of glitch art, zine stuff. So Victoria was prolific in glitching stuff out. She actually ran a service where you could give her your Instagram feed and she'd spit out a zine for you that was like glitched out. Yeah, some like kind of interactive stuff as well. So this one was processing is generating the visuals, but it's hooked up to a Connect. So you could like get close to it and it would get bigger, and if you got further away, it would get smaller as well. But you know, when it gets projected into a big space, it really is impactful. And finally, we have Jordan. Probably one of my favorites is he was taking weather data, mapping it into this form. So I think it was like cold days, you know, under 10 degrees or something turns blue, over 10 degrees turns white. He would take that output, put it into punch cards, put the punch card into a loom, and then it would knit you a scarf, like based on that output. And he was wanting to say that, and obviously, you know, where it's white here, you get white thread. And he was kind of saying that if you were using, say, warmer fabric for the blue ones and cooler fabric for the white ones, then the scarf that gets created for you would be like perfect for the temperature that it is. Because if it's cold, you get a warmer scarf and so on. Good stuff. I think that is the end. Cool.
Sweet.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Spin.
Yep. Yep. Wait. Oh, low battery.
Yep. Yeah. Thanks.
I think my charger's just stopped.
What?
Finally
Plug?
parked it. Do you mind if I use? Do you have a new one?
I'm on the new one, man.
Okay. Oh no, it's just started working.
Okay.
Great.
Okay.
Where shall I start? Maybe I'll take this over here so I can sort of
Yeah.
do it. Hey everyone, I'm Ben Jack. I teach at Victoria University here in Wellington. And I just wanted to give a quick talk about my creative practice as a creative coder and about the slow process of getting less digital and escaping, I guess, the screen-based format. So where I started out was with processing. So I started doing processing about 10 years ago. And have just been doing a lot of static imagery and animation and so forth. So I guess just experimenting with the medium of creative coding to produce imagery. So lots of these works are just kind of one-off pieces or experiments. This one was inspired by Tuku panels and the Sierpinski triangle. And was this one actually was in JavaScript rather than processing. So eventually I got a bit tired of just static imagery. So I got really into making interactives. So I started, I would prototype these in processing and then usually move to C++ or Cinder. So this one was a webcam-based one, which would, I guess, track your movement through space and create this 3D scene. This one was brainwave controlled, so it would read your brainwaves and kind of create patterns out of a field of static. And again, this was me just trying to, I guess, take my creative coding practice and make it more applicable to human experience. So like looking at our day-to-day lived visceral human experience and trying to, I guess, look at that through my artistic practice. This is one I've actually just installed last week in Singapore. The photo is not great, but this uses real-time face tracking, so it like pulls your face out, like gives you a big bobble head, and I don't know, does painty stuff. This one was kind of like a playful take of selfie culture and universal surveillance. Yeah. Anyway, but that, I guess that's not what this talk is about. It's about how, I guess, I've taken that interactive and I'm trying to, I guess, get more tangible, more physical. So one of the trajectories I've been taking is working on tools for other artists and designers to use. So this was, I guess, like a grid maker and then a pattern maker, which was designed for other artists. So you can see the grid that was made here being, I guess, propagated through to make this pattern from an image. And then this was used by one of my colleagues, Douglas Easterly, in some of the painting work he did. So I worked with him to create this tool for him to then be able to bring into his physical painting work. So that's been a bit of a trend. This one was a piece of software I wrote in WebGL with another colleague who's an industrial designer who likes to do 3D printing. So I guess we worked together. So I made him this tool for him to use in his practice. Again, trying to, I guess, for me, look at generativity from a collaborative standpoint. And also, I guess, just get out of my own, stuff and include other people in the work I'm doing. So these are some of the prints that came out of that project. So this is the same grid again from that grid project, but I brought back into processing. I was actually using HeMesh for this particular sketch. And this is like a little software tool that I've been developing based on those grids for creating forms. And this was used in another collaboration to create lights, interactive lights for the Lux Light Festival in Wellington last year. So again, like really looking at using these tools as kind of like temporary jigs. So like a carpenter will make a jig and it's not designed as this permanent thing. It's this temporary tool which is used for a purpose and then discarded or moved on from. And so then it kind of leads into what I'm working on now. This is not my digital work, clearly. This is my collection of Chinese teapots. I'm totally obsessed with Chinese tea and teaware. And I guess that has been flavoring my work quite a lot lately because I love ceramics and I love creative coding. So what I've been doing lately is creating these tea trays. So I make the patterns in processing and then, basically cut them on a CNC machine. So that's what I guess trying to, again, get out of the screen, get more physical and tangible, and other tea trays here that I've made. And then more recently, I've been CNC milling clay. Oh, there goes my laptop. It is plugged in. It's just finally done what all Apple chargers do. Thank you so much. Done what all Apple chargers do and died. Yeah, perfect. Thank you. So I've been working in clay and using processing to create vector paths. So using processing's really nice PDF exporting tool, creating vector paths, which I then take into Rhino to then send to the CNC mill. Let's see.
We have to move on quickly.
On,
yeah. Now, can you wrap it up and then
I guess that's fine. Thanks.
Okay. All right, thanks, Ben. Sorry. Cool. Our last presentation is David's.
Okay. Hello, my name is David. I'm a music student at the New Zealand School of Music, and I'm pretty new to programming, but I've been trying to use it in some of my work in the last like 6 months or so. So I'm going to talk to you about one sort of piece or work that I created at the end of last year, and the idea behind it is.
Can you speak louder?
Oh, yeah,
They
sure.
ask.
Okay, so
yeah.
so the
Louder,
idea
please.
behind it is to create an online browser-based installation or generative music piece, and I wanted to make it feel like a sort of a real space where you can be viewing it, and you can also be made aware of other people viewing it in their browser in different spots, wherever they are. So the aesthetic of everything is quite minimal. So basically, this is what it looks like when you're using it. And when you log in, it's taking the data from your camera and converting that into this image. And the circle is representative of your sort of average positioning of your of these dark squares, which are created from like a brightness threshold that makes the square go like dark or light. And you can move around and you move the circle, and then as you experience the work, you kind of get more of an understanding for what you're able to do and what the limits of what you're able to do is. And so then when you see the other circles appear of other people, if they are also logged in, the idea is that you can get some sort of understanding of their experience of the work by the way that they are moving it and how it's moving around. So yeah, I'm just gonna like demonstrate it. I'll just show you by myself like this. So the sounds it's like kind of like this sound art thing. So the sounds probably sound really horrible going through that. Well, it doesn't sound so good anyway, but basically I'm able to move the screen circle around, and that's me on the screen, and the other circle is JP, and he can also interact with it. And yeah, and if other people also log in, then everyone can see everybody's circle, and that's kind of the idea.
Cool. What's the link?
The link is socket. Oh wait, this is the link here. socket-av.herokuapp.com. I have no idea if it's gonna like crash or whatever, because
find out now.
All right.
But also you can change the threshold of the brightness at the bottom on the slider, so you can like make it more white or more dark. Yeah, and mine is already slowing down, so yeah. Anyway, that's it.
Cool.
Thank
Awesome.
you.
All right, so that's us from Wellington. To the last wave. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone, for Brisbane.
Bye.
Bye. Have a good day.
You too. See ya.
Bye.
Bye. Awesome. That worked.
Bye.
Bye. Bye, Mel. See ya.
Bye. Have a good day.
You too. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.